Welcome back, and thank you for joining another deep dive into the darker corners of human nature. Before we begin, I'd love to know what you think of our stories. Drop a comment, tell us what you'd like to see in the next video, and if you find this case compelling, consider sharing it with someone who loves true crime. Your support shapes the cases we explore next. Now, settle in. This is the story of Colleen Campbell, the woman tabloids would later crown the Killer Queen, a small-town bar manager who clawed her way into the orbit of organized crime, and whose lust for revenge left an irreversible trail of blood. The spring of 2013 found Colleen Campbell living a life that looked unremarkable on the surface. By day, she balanced invoices and staff schedules at a scrappy Buffalo watering hole. By night, she nursed a private bitterness that dated back years, a failed marriage, mounting debts, and a simmering belief that the world was stacked against her. Friends said she could be magnetic, buying rounds for strangers, cracking jokes at the jukebox, but that the warmth flipped to ice whenever she felt slighted. Colleen's tipping point came after a violent assault on her younger brother outside a nightclub. Police opened a file, but the investigation stalled. The alleged attackers were rumored hangarounds for a mid-level drug crew. To Colleen, the system's failure became personal betrayal. She began spending late nights at poker rooms and private bars, quietly asking questions. Within months, she'd cultivated contacts in the city's gray economy, collectors, boosters, even a low-tier loan shark who admired her nerve. According to later testimony, Colleen learned fast. She kept her nails manicured, her hair immaculate, and her business cards deliberately vague. Consultant. Beneath the polish, she absorbed the brutal arithmetic of street debts: interest, intimidation, silence. And always, she kept a running list of names she believed had wronged her family. By 2014, locals whispered that Colleen had muscle. A pair of brothers, ex-dock workers, began trailing her at bars, casually flashing the kind of confidence that makes bartenders comp rounds. They called her the Queen, half-jokingly. She liked the ring of it. One humid August night, a rival bookie was beaten unconscious in a parking lot. Witnesses claimed a woman's voice ordered the men to stop when he learns his lesson. Police never proved Colleen was there, but gossip swirled. Friends who once dismissed her late-night scheming began keeping their distance. The escalation continued after her brother, still struggling with lingering trauma, died from an opioid overdose in 2015. Colleen's grief hardened into vendetta. To confidants, she framed it as cleaning up the streets, but her ledger of enemies ballooned. Her crew started intercepting dealers, skimming cash, and in one chilling instance, torching a stash house while its occupants barely escaped. Through it all, Colleen maintained a veneer of legitimacy, leasing a second bar under an LLC, hosting charity poker nights, even posing for photos with local councilmen. Those who crossed her privately spoke of sudden vandalism, anonymous threats, and, eventually, violence that felt surgical. No witnesses, minimal evidence, maximum fear. The turning point. February 2017. A confrontation at her flagship bar spiraled beyond intimidation. A low-level runner named Eric Styx Malone, suspected of pushing the same pills her brother overdosed on, was dragged into the alley after closing. Witnesses heard shouting, Colleen's voice sharp, commanding. Moments later, Malone was shot twice, execution style. The gun vanished. Security cameras coincidentally malfunctioned. Homicide detectives flagged Colleen's name but lacked leverage. She projected calm, even grief, attending candlelight vigils, donating to overdose awareness. Yet behind closed doors, her inner circle whispered, "Queen handled it." With blood spilled, lines blurred. Associates claimed Colleen started strategizing like a mob tactician, rotating burner phones, staggering meeting spots, vetting anyone who came near her crew. Revenge had metastasized into a growing criminal enterprise. Money laundering followed, bogus invoices, inflated entertainment budgets, off-books gambling nights, but hubris stalks every empire. Unraveling the Empire. By 2018, federal narcotics units mapped overlapping investigations on Buffalo's mid-tier drug scene. Wiretaps caught chatter about the lady boss skimming profits. Detectives leaned on peripheral players, flipping a courier who described a queen's court enforcing debts at gunpoint. A critical break landed that winter. A trafficker busted on I-90 traded names for leniency. Among them, Colleen Campbell, tagged as Green-Eyed Queen. Surveillance teams quietly logged her patterns: BMW lease, cash-heavy bar deposits, and a revolving door of rough-cut men. Colleen, sensing heat, doubled down. "We leave no witnesses," she allegedly told a confidant, words later cited in court. A firebombing of a competitor's bar left investigators convinced she'd crossed from retaliation to unchecked dominance. Then came her final misstep: the fatal play. In June 2019, a longtime associate accused of skimming from poker nights vanished. Days later, hikers discovered his body in a shallow riverside grave, duct-taped, hands bound. The autopsy read blunt force trauma. Digital breadcrumbs, text messages, tower pings placed Colleen's phone near the river hours before the murder. Detectives quietly secured warrants, tailing her movements, mapping her network. Unaware the net was tightening, Colleen staged an ostentatious Queen's Ball at her downtown bar: velvet ropes, champagne, a DJ spinning 90s anthems. Instagram photos from that night, dripping in sequins and bravado, later featured prominently at trial, prosecutors framing them as proof she gloried in her impunity. The tipping domino came from within. Her bartender, facing unrelated drug charges, flipped. In meticulous debriefings, he outlined Colleen's scoreboard of grudges, describing late-night strategy huddles, coded texts, and direct orders for payback hits. Armed with his testimony, investigators moved swiftly. A pre-dawn raid in March 2020 seized phones, ledgers, and a 9mm pistol ballistically matched to Styx Malone's murder. Colleen was arrested without incident, immaculate in silk pajamas, whispering to cameras, "I kept my city clean." The trial. The courtroom saga stretched across 9 grueling weeks. Prosecutors painted Colleen as a mastermind. Grief curdled into control. Revenge hardened into murder. Jurors saw text exchanges referencing taking out trash, grainy footage of her circling crime scenes, and ledger notes with cryptic tallies. The defense spun her as a scapegoat, a woman vilified for navigating male-dominated vice. Yet cooperating witnesses, once loyal, described her ruthlessness. She said mercy was weakness. Queen, don't forgive. On June 28, 2021, the jury returned guilty verdicts on second-degree murder, racketeering, and conspiracy. Colleen's only visible reaction was a slow exhale, hands folded as if absorbing inevitable fate. At sentencing, families of victims demanded closure. The judge called her trajectory a cautionary testament to what vengeance becomes when left unchecked. She received life without parole. In prison interviews, Colleen alternated between defiance and nostalgia, insisting she'd avenged her blood while lamenting betrayal by rats. Criminologists frame her case as a study in grievance-fueled escalation, how private hurt can metastasize into organized cruelty when fueled by charisma and perceived impunity. Back in Buffalo, her shuttered bars collect dust. Locals still trade stories of the Queen's icy gaze, her laugh that could pivot to menace in a heartbeat. The myth lingers. Was she protector, predator, or both? What's undeniable is the tally of lives lost, all born of a vengeance spiral she could no longer control. If you've followed this case, let us know. What moment sealed Colleen Campbell's fate in your eyes? Share your thoughts in the comments and tell us which stories you'd like us to explore next. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you want more deep dive true crime brought to your feed every day. Until next time, stay safe, stay curious.